perfect, but getting better. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Always happy to see you guys here, and welcome back to my I Know What You Did Last Summer film review series with the latest I Know What You Did Last Summer, the newest adaptation, the legacy sequel, the requel, if you want to call it that. If you have not checked them out yet, I do have my reviews of those first 3 films down in the links in the description down below, so check those out when you can. Plus, a ranking video of all 4 of these things will be up sometime next week. I don't want to say what day, but it'll be up soon, so watch out for that as well. So in the newest film, it is set 27 years after the events of the second film, to where you have a group of friends who are targeted by yet another hook-wielding killer 1 year after covering up a horrific accident. Now, those first 2 films, I do have a little bit of a nostalgia for that. And of course, it came out during the Scream era. It came out post-Scream. So by the time I was in my teens, that's when I started noticing that original film. Then I really started liking it after I watching the second film, I still know. But I really didn't get into these until after the Scream era, after my Scream obsession. They're not perfect films. Those first 2, I Know What You Did Last Summer, they're not perfect films, but they're good. They're fun. And I enjoy them a great deal. And the third one can, and to be a little bit more family friendly here, can go off itself. Or to be a little funny, can go hook itself. When Scream of 2022, which is basically Scream 5, got that legacy sequel treatment, I kind of figured it was only a matter of time that they did that with another horror franchise, and this time was I Know What You Did Last Summer. I kind of figured it was going to go the same way, and I'm not quite sure yet. I don't know this for a fact, but I would be surprised if Urban Legend is far behind as well. If we're going to get like another legacy sequel to that. But we'll see, because that's apparently the era we're in right now. Which is fine. Not dogging it, but I'm just saying. But was this film anything to write home about? Was it worthy enough to earn its place, to earn its rightful place in existence? Starting off with the positives of I Know What You Did Last Summer, I did like the fact that this film kind of returns to form. It does return to the same spot, the same setting that first film does in Southport, North Carolina, to where you have this hook-wielding killer that's chasing down these teenagers for something that they did a year earlier, just like that first one. And like I said, it's set around that same area that the original film was, so I did appreciate that. I know that's not going to be too big of a deal to most people, but I really did appreciate that. And again, it just brings up that nostalgic factor. And I know a lot of people are saying that nostalgia is overrated, but I like a little bit of a nostalgia every now and then, unless they push it to the bounds. That's when I have a problem with it. But I actually didn't mind that in this film. I just like that they go back to basics, that they go back to its roots, like Scream did in 2022, like Scream 5 did. I enjoyed that aspect. And I thought it was a cool hats off to return to where it all began. Again, I know nostalgia is becoming a little bit overrated, but I don't care. And let's face it, no matter what problems I have with this one, it pales in comparison to that vomit-induced coma that was that third film, which is, come on, a no-brainer. Sure, the new one isn't perfect. It has its problems, which I will definitely get into here in a little bit. But still, at least, despite its problems that I will mention, at least it's still trying, and at least it still knows what it is to try to get back to its form and to know what it actually is. And it's just a little bit closer to how I wish this franchise would have gone, other than what we got with that third film. I'll try not to ramble on too much about that one. I mean, for those of you who've watched my review for I'll Always Know, you know my feelings for that. But still, this one, it just seemed like it was trying, at least. There was some pretty decent kills in here. Unlike the first one, which was pretty bloodless, this one, it actually showed a little bit more. Now, it still wasn't perfect. There's one particular kill that really grinded on my nerves, which I'll get into here in a minute in the next segment. But as far as the kills goes, for the most part, I thought there was some creativity there. There's one particular kill where they use the hook on somebody, and it's so slow, and it's agonizing, and it actually got a rise out of me. It's actually one of those kills that really satisfied me on a deeper level that I wish we would have had earlier in this franchise. And it just showed how brutal a killer like this in this franchise, this particular killer, could be. It just seemed like they tried to spice things up here just a little bit, especially compared to the first 3 films, to where the kills, they actually up it up a notch. There was more creativity here, not by much, but there was more creativity, there's more blood and gore, and for gore hounds like myself, that should be really satisfying. If you're a gore hound and you appreciate good kills, you'll definitely appreciate what this film brings out. Like I said, there was one particular kill that did get on my nerves a little bit. And again, I'll get into the specific details in that without giving too much away, but for the most part, the kills were pretty decent. Especially some of the aftermath scenes, which kind of reminded me of a little bit of what Michael Myers would do. And that's all I'll say on that matter. Moving on to the mixed, it was great seeing Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt return. Of course, they wasn't in it the whole time. Like I said, they treated this just like they did for Scream 5 back in 2022. This is exactly kind of a carbon copy of everything that they were trying to do from that film in this. So you have these legacy characters in Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt coming back as sort of more of like supporting roles for the newer characters. Just like with Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox and David Arquette for Scream 5, that's exactly what they did for Freddie and Jennifer in I Know What You Did Last Summer. And it was cool seeing them together. It was great as sort of like a reunion type. Again, going back to that nostalgia factor. It was great seeing them. But I didn't feel like they utilized them as well as they did with Neve, Courtney, and David for Scream 5. I didn't feel like they utilized Jennifer and Freddie as much in I Know What You Did Last Summer as much as I wanted. I felt like they could have worked a little bit more in that. They just kind of felt like throwaway characters in a way, to where I wanted more than that. I wanted to feel their presence in this, even though, like, maybe more so on Jennifer Love Hewitt's case. She wasn't in it as much as Freddie Prinze Jr. was, but even so, even with Freddie Prinze Jr., I didn't feel that legacy feel, that legacy presence that I wanted. And I just felt like they could have improved a little bit. It kind of felt like they were throwaway characters than anything else, and that was a little disappointing. But again, I enjoyed watching them on screen. I enjoyed seeing them return and just let them do their thing. I just wish they were written a little bit better, and they should have gotten better, proper material to do instead of what they got to do. So, unfortunately, that was a little bit of a swing and a miss. But again, it wasn't a total loss. I just wish they had more to do. It just never felt earned, in my opinion. And touching a little bit more on to what I was just saying earlier, there's this one kill, which it shows in the trailer, so I'm not giving anything away, to where it shows this guy being speared through the shoulder. The way that scene played out, it was a good kill. I appreciated what they were trying to do. But you have this guy that's in this kitchen, and then his girlfriend goes up to spray some salt in the bathtub to soak a little bit, and she puts these headphones on to listen to this relaxation type of thing, while you have the boyfriend downstairs getting killed by this killer. And it just kept on cutting back to the girl, and it just kept on doing it constantly. And the more it was playing out, the more annoyed I got. I was like, would you quit doing that? Quit cutting from this to that. I want to see more of this, of the kill, than that. It just kept on constantly doing it, and I was like, stop it already. Just stop it. At one point, I wanted to yell at the damn screen, because it just kept on constantly doing that. Again, stop it. So that was a little annoying. The kill itself, when it was showing it, when it wasn't freaking cutting back to the girl, was actually pretty decent. But the fact that they kept on cutting back to that girl grinded on my nerves, because it just kept on and on and on. It's like, stop it. Just stop interrupting already. Very odd choice in editing. And I'll be damned if I wasn't able to avoid anything that annoyed the living crap out of me. Going into this, I kind of figured as much, and it was just inevitable. It's just something I couldn't escape. Damn it. Now on to the negatives. The new characters in this, I didn't quite care for. Not even our main lead. There was one character in this that kept on making jokes. She's like the bratty type, entitled rich girl that was always the one in the background trying to lighten up the mood, but it just never seemed to land, and it just made the film seem goofy, like a parody within its own self, because she tried to make these funny remarks and jokes, and it's like, stop it already. I just couldn't really stand her character. There was this other blank character that you couldn't get into whatsoever because she had like no personality whatsoever. And even our main lead, I just couldn't get into. I don't believe for a second that she was able to like survive something like this in the first place. All the new characters in this, I couldn't get into. It's like the curse of the legacy to where you can never live up to what those films were. And I feel like that's kind of a stain on future reference. Again, I don't mean to keep on comparing this, but with Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera for Scream 5, I think they had more of a stamina to their abilities and their acting, which is why these characters in this kind of failed. These are actors I've never really heard of, I've never really seen before. Not just because of that, but it just felt like they wasn't really putting their all into it. And I just never really quite believed their performance as much as I wanted. And I just couldn't really get behind them. I just never really gave a shit. I wasn't really that much of a fan of the killer reveal. Now, there are two sides of this. I will not get into any detail, but I wasn't really that big of a fan of it. They tried to recreate like those first original two, but in a way, they tried to add on to it, but it never really worked. I did like the whole whodunit thing, which, like, the first one was more of what was going on than a whodunit, even though they still had some elements of the red herring in those. But for this one, they caked it on a little bit too much, and the payoff just wasn't really that satisfying. Everything that, minus a few problems I've already mentioned, leading up to that was pretty satisfying. I really did enjoy, but for the reveal itself, didn't quite cut it for me. When you have a killer reveal, it just seems like it's getting harder and harder to do something like that, especially for a slasher, for a whodunit, and yet again, they kind of bit the dust here. But again, everything leading up to that, I actually did quite like, despite its miniature problems. As far as the legacy of this franchise goes, because they did such a horrible job on that third film, they just gave up after that second film. I don't really think this is going to have that much legs to it, because they waited so long, and especially after the abysmal that was I Always Know. I just don't think this is going to have that much of a leg to stand on. Because Scream, because Ghostface is so much more of a popular character than the Fisherman, I've never really thought that much of the Fisherman. The killer in the I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise, I've never really thought that high of. It's just never been one of those icons that I've never really put up there on the pedestal. So as far as the legacy of this franchise goes, it's not really that strong. It's not really that big in terms of icons. So I just really don't think this is going to go anywhere as much as Scream did. And I think that's going to be the one main downfall for this film in particular. And last but not least, and I figured I'd save the worst for last, but the main problem I have with this film is it felt way too rushed. To where you have these kids, these teenagers, these friends on this mountain road that causes this accident, and the whole entire scene, unlike that original film, you don't have enough time to soak everything in. They don't give you enough screen time on that alone for you to realize what's happening, and before you know it, it's over, just like that. So it just gives the entire rest of the film kind of a, okay, it's just a thing that happened that somebody pissed off about, so why should I care? And it's just that whole ordeal of it just feeling like it was just way too rushed. It was way too fast-paced for you to actually soak in what was going on. Like with that original film, which they spent an appropriate amount of time with that scene alone for you to actually soak everything in, for you to actually get what was going on, and the tenseness and just the all-around feel to it, to where here, you don't really get that much. And that was the main problem of this. And on top of that, the film scoring never really helped at all. It just seemed like it was a much downgrade, a downplay of how that original film played out, to where you have a lot of creepy vibes in that original film because the scoring was so effective. But here, it's just a downplay. It's a down spiral of something that was just playing in the background. And it doesn't really play off as effective as that original film did. It's just a downgrade, and that was another reason why this film kind of failed for me. But all in all, guys, did I hate this entry? Of course not. It had its problems, but it definitely had its upgrades as well, especially compared to that third film. It was good. It was a decent slasher. I did have a good time. I enjoyed myself. And you should really give it a chance. So I Know What You Did Last Summer, the newest in this franchise. Did you have a chance to go see it yet? Are you a fan of this? Did you enjoy what this film brought out? Are you a fan of what they did for this one? Or were you really ever a fan of this franchise at all? Was this something that you just kind of shrugged off over the years? Is just something that you just kind of forgot about, especially in the last 19 years? What's your thoughts on this franchise entirely as a whole? Leave me a comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, for clicking here and watching this. I really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Make sure to click that bell icon so you don't miss a thing if you like what you see. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.